So right now, it's very simple that I invite for a discussion, presentation on global standards on leadership development and disclosure. And this is the president of SHRM, which is a human forum, human resource forum. And this is Mr. Zahid Mubarik, who would be making this presentation. And like I said earlier on, we have 20 minutes for this. Please welcome Mr. Zahid Mubarik. I'm sorry about this time thing, so you have 20 minutes.
Thank you, thank you. Because every presenter always has a blind spot, so I'll try to be balanced. First of all, thank you so much, Asfar, for giving me this opportunity. I think we have 20 minutes, and I'll try to utilize it as productively as possible. Zahid Mubarik, as you know, already been introduced. I won't like to go into those detail. I was listening to a very interesting conversation. And as the topic is about the leadership standard globally. But before talking about this standard, I would like to share with you a bigger picture of what is happening on the HR at the front, how we are looking at the business, how we are looking at the world, and how the world is perceiving the HR. So I'll be sharing with you some of the facts and figures and statistics because I'm a metric guy. But please do not feel offended. It's something realistic, supported by research. It was interesting to know that HR is at the helm of affairs. It's a decision maker, it's a business partner. But I'm going to share with you, I don't know whether you can read it or not. This is the latest research by a company which is famous for executives' compensation research in the United States. And the findings of this research, 2015, I'm trying to link it with a VUCA model. I'm not going to the HR aspects of it. I'm trying to draw some strategic connections. This research says, and this has been published in Executive Survey, Salary Survey 2016, that out of the all hierarchy that you have in the organization, the C-level, HR is the least paid profession in terms of the salary and the benefits. And these are the facts and figures. Now, interesting part, and please do not feel bad about it because it's not at the individual level. As you know, I know some of the people over here, one of them is sitting right in front of myself because there are certain people who are beyond that and they're exceptional, and there could be many more else also, but the research findings are based on certain aggregate outcomes. And this is the aggregate outcome. Now, interesting thing is, we say that, oh, we are the leaders, we are the developed leaders because leadership development falls within the domain of the human resource management. What is our positioning into the organization? Do you agree with this thing that unless we are not strategically positioned in the organization, we would not be in a position to inspire somebody? And if we are not able to inspire, we will not be able to contribute toward this important aspect, leadership development. Now, this thing probably opens a thought that maybe the senior people, the business people, they do not like the HR. How many agree with you that the senior people do not like the HR? Please raise your hand. Okay, rest of you agree that they like HR? Okay, see another findings. In 2013, the PricewaterhouseCoopers, they did a survey, a global survey. They asked more than 1,300 or 1,344 CEOs that what is that profession which can take you forward in the next 5 years. Do you know what was the answer of all the collective CEOs? With that profession? No, it's the human resources. Interesting thing, on one hand, CEO says that HR is the #1 profession which can take us forward in the next 5 years. On the other hand, they position the HR head at the lowest level. What is the reason? Do you think something is missing with the profession or the professional or the business people? Look at another dimension. Harvard Business Review research, which has been published in their magazine, it says that people who become CEOs and they have an exposure to the HR, they are far better CEOs than anybody else who doesn't have the exposure to the HR. Now keep in mind that Harvard researches are based on a lot of research, but if you read this important line toward the end, which is the orange line at the end written over here, can somebody read it? Great CEOs are highly paid, CHROs are highly paid because they are hard to find. Now, just think interesting phenomena. People like profession. The professionals are at the rock bottom, but those out of the professionals who are able to perform extraordinarily well, within in Pakistan you have examples, they're becoming the CEOs, and they supersede the finance, they supersede the marketing people, they supersede everybody else, and they influence, and they're able to go to the climax position. Now, in this interesting phenomena, one thing which comes straight forward, that you think, is there anybody from compensation background sitting over here? Anyone? Anybody who had an exposure to the compensation management in the organization? You? Okay. Very briefly, very crisply, can you tell me that net worth of a job and organization, when you look at the job evaluation process to determine its pricing, it's linked to which most important factor? जॉब वर्थ आपकी किसके साथ लिंक्ड होती है? एक मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर कौन सा होता है? बिजनेस रिजल्ट्स. रिजल्ट तो अभी आप जॉब एवेल्यूएशन पर कॉम्पिटेंसी असेसमेंट करते हैं, रिजल्ट तो बात की बात है ना. तो डू यू एग्री विद दिस थिंग दैट योर क्वालिफिकेशन, योर स्किल सेट, योर कॉम्पिटेंसी फ्रेमवर्क, इट वन ऑफ द डिटर्मिनेंट. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर आप कह रहे हैं कि कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स है, तो लोएस्ट लेवल कम्युनिकेशन skills has a lower job worth and high level communication has a higher skill. So it is linked with your credentials, your qualification. Or the more amount of rigor that goes in earning a qualification, there the reward is higher. अगर मैं कहूँ कि अगर ACCA का एक student है या CA का student है, तो during the articleship the person get 8 to 10,000 rupees. Is that correct? Like the moment the person graduates, gets 100,000 rupees. There's a contrast difference. So the amount of effort that goes into development of a professional, it becomes a strong determinant of our net worth. This is one of the area probably where most of us lack. And I'm showing you a competency model in which this leadership development has been determined by the SHRM. And I hope you are familiar with the SHRM. There are so many renowned bodies in the world, but in terms of the head count, the body, which has got 280,000 members in 140 countries, the body which has served more than 140 million employees, which has served more than 100,000 employees, and we did a research in 32 nations with 640 CHROs, 32,000 professionals to determine what it needs to become an effective HR professional that can excel, that can grow, that can outsmart the other professional and go to the top level. And this competency model, this competency model basically, the first competency in the model is leadership and navigation. So I won't like to go into the more details that what is leadership, because I think enough has been talked about in the morning. I'll just talk about something that what is expected out of you in the leadership development. And I would like to link it with some of the standards. And what are the standards? In fact, the SHRM in 2011, it offered a proposal to the ISO that all structured professions, finance, IT, accounts, sales, marketing, they have a defined way of doing things. अगर आज आप किसी अकाउंटेंट से कहें कि आप डबल एंट्री सिस्टम कैसे करते हैं, 10 अकाउंटेंट से पूछें, 10 लोग आपको एक जवाब देंगे. लेकिन अगर आप HR से ये बात पूछें कि how do you performance management in one single cadre for an engineer in the telecom sector, in the banking sector, the cashier, 10 organization आपको 10 जवाब दे देती हैं. The question is, where is the objectivity? Where is something common? For that, in order to have something common ground, the SHRM gave a proposal to the ISO, and I'll come to the leadership standard, and they said, let's sit together and make standards, and these are the countries which were invited by the ISO in the first instance to develop standards. What are those? United States, Germany, France, Netherlands, Sweden, Switzerland, Austria, Italy, Pakistan, Norway, and Portugal. So fortunately, we were the first one out of the South Asia who became part of the Global Standard Development Committee, and in the past 5 years, we had a series of the physical interactions. We went to learn from each other in different parts of the world. That included the Washington, that included the Melbourne, that included the Paris, that included the Dublin, that included the all other renowned, developed countries. The latest meeting that we had in where the standards were, 4 standards have been approved, that was in Singapore. And now day after tomorrow, after 2 days, we are again going to meet, and this meeting is being hosted by British Standards Institute, United Kingdom. So 4 standards have been approved for the HR. It is very important. अब ये देखें, अगर हमने HR में लीडरशिप डेवलपमेंट किसी चीज़ की बात करनी है तो वी मस्ट टॉक विद सर्टेन रेफरेंस which is credible, which is known, which is worldwide acknowledged. Otherwise, जो हम बात करेंगे, that will be you and my conversation. So the word is now not being driven by you and me. It is being driven by something which is called we. And we is basically meant for the profession. So 4 standards which have been developed so far, just for your information. HR vocabulary has been developed by Netherlands within the ISO. Human governance built by France within the ISO. Workforce planning developed by the Australia. Recruitment by United States. HR metrics. 2 countries are now leading at the global level, Pakistan and United States. Knowledge management being led by the Israel. The HR disclosure within which the leadership development falls. This has been developed by it is being developed by the Germany. Diversity and inclusion by USA. Competency model by the Canada. And employee engagement, the US has come forward with the proposal. अब हम आते हैं leadership development की तरफ. You must have heard lot of theories, lot of concept, ऐसे हो सकता है. But अगर मैं आपसे एक question पूछूं, business के अंदर जो लोग business पे deal कर रहे हैं, there are 2 things to run something. One is called input and what is the output. From a procedural process point of view, input is important. But what is important from the business point of view or the organization point of view? Input or the output? Output. So let me know, I wasn't there throughout the day, if the output has been discussed good enough, but I would like to reiterate if they have not been discussed earlier. Some of the, I would not like to go into more detail because just 20 minutes, we are also going to have extensive discussion on the standards after 2 months in Lahore, Karachi, Islamabad. I'll just talk about the 5 critical factors that the HR people are expected to deliver, to demonstrate to the business, not the stories, not the narratives, or not any kind of, blah, blah thing that they're less interested to see. Number 1 factor is which one? Business critical position retention index. Have you mapped the critical position in your organization and what percentage of the position the organization is capable of retaining during the period? Because this has a direct linkage with the organization business continuity. The next one is homegrown leadership index. What is the homegrown leadership index? You have certain critical position including the C-level, or it could be non-C-level because some of the operational position could also be. How many of position in your organization have been filled internally by your own people? That is one of the strongest indicator of your capability development. Number of training hours, number of the people training abroad, number of in-house, that is something activity measurement. This is more important on the outcome measurement side. The next one, leadership readiness index. How many positions you are capable of filling at the short notice? आप कह रहे हैं मेरे पास 10 पोजीशंस हैं, आज इनकी एट्रिशन हो जाती है कि आप कितनी कल क्विक नोटिस पे फिल कर सकते हैं. दैट इज कॉल्ड, इफ यू आर एबल टू फिल 3 out of 10, इट्स मेक 30%. लीडरशिप क्वालिटी इंडेक्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. आज आपके पास शॉर्टफॉल क्या होते हैं? कहते हैं लीडर वो होता है जो वॉक दी टॉक करे. बात करना बहुत आसान है. वो का मॉडल इज वेरी सिंपल. आई टेल यू, गो टू द गूगल, यू विल बी एबल टू फाइंड दिस मॉडल. Important thing is that when you're talking something, how much you're able to unleash the inspiration for your subordinate, for your people, and the trust that you have in your capabilities, when you are developing leaders. So this is applicable for the leadership position. There is a framework to measure this thing, and these 4-5 things which I'm mentioning, it's not from my side. In 500 Fortune companies, there's a standard which is called investor metrics. When an investor wants to look at the performance of the company, from the HR, they just do not look at the head count, कि कितने बंदे हैं या कितने बंदे कम हो गए. They look at some of the analytics, the measurements, the metrics, and these are some of the important metrics. And the 5th one is human capital spending. How much your organization is spending and what is the return on investment. There's a framework to do it. So this is just the crux of, very brief, since the time was very short. We have already planned exclusive sessions subsequently on the standards, and my strong recommendation would be, if you really want to develop leaders in your organization, first of all, determine what you want to get out of it. First of all, try to understand all these important things, because if you keep on doing so many activities, but at the end of the day, you're not able to determine what is your result, what is your outcome, what you have produced, I tell you, people are not going to listen to you. If I ask the organizer of this organization, this nutshell, what is your outcome? They would like to look at it in terms of revenue generation, in terms of the satisfaction of the people, in terms of the number of the people attend. So the outcome is always in numerical terms, it's always in metrics term. And keep in mind that if you, whatever theory, whatever the model that you want to use, unless you do not focus on the outcome and you try to demonstrate results to the business, it will be very hard to defend the profession. If we're not able to defend the profession, I told you the consequences in the first slides, they will be sitting at the rock bottom of the compensation management, whereas within the same profession, within the HR, there are people who are sitting at the climax of the profession, they are enjoying. So there are both the sides, choice is yours. That's it that I had to say. If you have any question or the comment, I'll be happy to answer. Sorry about this.
The question is, having the standards there is great. What is the implementation of the standards? Has any initiative been taken already? Especially, I'm talking from a Pakistan perspective.
Very right. Good question. The standards are driven from multiple angles. Number one, multinational companies who have to operate in the global market, the WTO, World Trade Organization, make it binding for the companies that if you want to operate in the global market, you have to meet certain standards. So now these standards have been built. Some of them they're in process of development. Going forward, the ISO operates through the WTO, and they make it mandatory for the international companies to comply with the standard. Otherwise, they are not allowed to operate in the global market. This is one aspect of it. Secondly, and as you understand, you're part of the global company. The global companies are mostly driven from their parent headquarters. Usually, they are very receptive, very proactive in terms of grasping these things and implementing these things. And as you know better than me, that when something becomes applicable at the parent headquarters, it automatically trickles down. So WTO is number one driver. Number two, local companies. Why a local company would like to go into this is because of when the local company, up to a certain extent, they run the organization in the way they feel like, but at point of time they realize that now they need to systemize the thing, to use certain procedures. So in that context, these are, you can say, the best practices in the market. So for them, the incentive is to, rather than picking up something from a consulting company or something which is purely subjective, they pick up a standard because this is more objective. I know the amount of rigor involved into it. There are 3 years effort minimum required for developing one standard. You were part of the conference 3-4 days before. We launched the diversity standard. That diversity and inclusion standard has been built by 95 global experts after a rigorous effort of the 3 years. So for the company, the incentive is to have some structured, more objective and a neutral document to implement, whereas for the international company, अब हम पाकिस्तान के अंदर we are, since what we are doing it's not from some kind of private platform. This is taking place from the PSQCA, Pakistan Standard and Quality Control Authority. Now, ISO works with 163 NSPs. NSP is called a National Standard Body. So every country is under obligation, if it is a signatory of these ISO, to comply with the standards and adopt it. So abhi wahan pehle Singapore mein approved हुए 2 months before. We had a meeting in Karachi. We have approved and adopted them for Pakistan. And gradually now we're working on a mechanism how to develop a structure to create a mechanism for certification of the organization, जो इस पे जाना चाहती हैं. So those of you who have plans to implement standards, get in touch with us. We'll be able to help you in a standardized and in a patent way, because all the documents, those are obtainable from the ISO, and we can help you in terms of adoption. But so far, this will be more of a best practice rather than a compliance. Compliance stage is going to come later on. Thank you so much. Any other question?
Thank you very much. Please don't go away. Stay here. And we have a gift for you. And Asfar, I would want you to be also here. Help us give the gift. And may I request Dr. Sadia Nadeem to please join us here on the stage to do the honors of presenting the gift. Thank you. Thank you. Great presentation and great time management. Appreciate that. Appreciate that.